Trusting in the gracious mercy of God, do you turn from the ways of sin and renounce evil and its power in the world?
Who is your Lord and Savior?
Will you be Christ's faithful disciple, obeying His word and showing His love?
Will you devote yourself to the church's teachings and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers?
At an early age, I learned that God loved me, and the whole world too, and that God had a plan for my life. I was taught that in order to understand God's plan for my life, I needed to be in a deep relationship with God. I needed to follow God's instruction. And I was called to respond to God's love for me by loving God and loving neighbor. As I grew into my teenage years, I was more focused on staying close to God so that I could make sense of how to live my life in a way that was pleasing to God. I also wanted to be sure that I was doing the right thing with my life as I was headed off to college. It was also in my teenage and young adult years that I experienced some difficult times in my life. Our family expanded to include step-family and step-siblings. While I was in college, I was hit with financial difficulty and had to return home. I had to work, attend community college, and completely rethink my academic studies. It was also in my young adult years that I went on my first mission trip to Tijuana, Mexico. It was on that trip that I was able to see another way of making sense of God's plan for my life. God's plan for my life included me being a witness to others about the goodness and glory of God. I learned that God's plan for my life included being called to being the hands and feet of Christ, no matter my college major or ultimate vocation. As I was being faced with the reality of life's challenges and the gift of seeing the gospel at work in another community that was facing challenges, I realized that God calls us to follow wherever God leads. And in order to follow God, I had to trust God, listen to God, and hold on to God every step of the way. After I trusted God to begin my life as a music major at a local university, I faced another challenge, watching my dad lose his battle to cancer while I was a junior in college. There is nothing like death to challenge your faith and to shake your perception of what it means to trust God. What I know to be true is that God is faithful in the most difficult times in your life, and that God will shape you and mold you into the faithful witness that God designs you to become. I have always resonated with the story of Abraham. If I'm going to be honest, I would say that I don't love change, and I definitely don't like to change my living arrangements abruptly. But Abraham left everything and followed God. Abraham followed God's instructions. Abraham had to learn to trust in God's promises. What I also love about Abraham is that he wasn't perfect. He didn't always get it right. He even made some mistakes. What I have learned through Abraham's life and Sarah's life is that if God has a plan for you, God will carry it through. You see, when you encounter God's activity in your life, when you see God active in the world, I think that it makes your heart open to trust God as you participate in new and exciting things for the sake of God's kingdom that ultimately transforms the world. The question is this: will you learn to trust God with all your heart and your soul and your mind and your strength?